My name is Sarah. I am 30 years old. I have been married to my husband, David, for 6 years. People always told us that we were the perfect couple. We laughed together, worked hard together, and dreamed about building a happy future. Life was never luxurious, but it was comfortable. David worked as an electrical engineer. I worked as a receptionist at a small medical clinic. We lived in a quiet apartment in Chicago. Every Friday evening, we cooked dinner together. Every Sunday morning, we drank coffee on our little balcony and talked about our future. Those simple moments meant everything to me. David was honest. He was patient. He always made me smile, even after a difficult day. I trusted him with all my heart. That was why I never imagined our marriage could change. But one ordinary Monday, everything slowly began to feel different. David started coming home later than usual. The first time he smiled and said, "I'm sorry, we have a big project at work." I believed him. Everyone has busy days. Then it happened again. And again. Soon, coming home late became normal. Sometimes he arrived after 10 o'clock. Sometimes it was almost midnight. He always looked exhausted. His shirt was wrinkled. His eyes looked tired. Whenever I asked if everything was all right, he simply smiled. "I'm fine," he said. "Work has just been very busy." I wanted to believe him, but something inside me felt uneasy. One evening, we were eating dinner together when his phone vibrated. He looked at the screen for only a second. Then he quickly turned the phone over. I had never seen him do that before. I smiled and asked, "Who is it?" He didn't look at me. "It's just someone from work." A few minutes later, the phone rang again. This time, David stood up, walked onto the balcony, and quietly closed the door behind him. I couldn't hear a single word. When he came back inside, I asked if everything was okay. He forced a smile. "Everything is fine." But his smile didn't reach his eyes. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. For the first time, a terrible thought entered my mind. What if David was hiding something from me? The next morning, I told myself to stop worrying. David had never given me a reason to doubt him before. Maybe I was simply imagining things. For a few days, everything seemed normal again. Then Saturday came. David finished breakfast, looked at his watch, and picked up his car keys. "I have to go out for a few hours," he said. "For work?" I looked at him in surprise. "On Saturday." He nodded. "My boss needs me. I'll be back before dinner." He kissed my forehead and walked out the door. Something didn't feel right. A few hours later, I decided to call his office. I only wanted to know if he would be home soon. The receptionist answered politely. "I'm sorry, ma'am. Our office is closed today." I froze. Closed? Then where was David? When he returned home that evening, I wanted to ask him everything. Instead, I stayed silent. I smiled as if nothing had happened. But inside, my heart was full of questions. Over the next 2 weeks, David became even more distant. He spent more time looking at his phone. Sometimes he smiled while reading a message. Other times, he immediately locked the screen when I entered the room. He also started using cash instead of our shared credit card. When I checked our monthly expenses, I noticed that money was disappearing every week. But I couldn't see where it was going. One rainy evening, I was hanging up his jacket when something fell from the pocket. It was a small receipt. I picked it up. It wasn't from a restaurant. It wasn't from a store. It was from a hospital. There was also a handwritten note. "Thank you for your generous donation." I stared at the paper for several seconds. Why would David hide this from me? Before I could think any further, I heard the front door open. David was home. I quickly slipped the receipt back into his jacket. That night, I barely slept. Every possible explanation filled my mind. Maybe another woman worked at the hospital. Maybe he was meeting someone there. Maybe all the late nights. All the secret phone calls. And all the lies were connected. I hated myself for thinking that. But I couldn't stop. The next evening, David received another phone call. He looked at the screen and immediately grabbed his keys. "I have to go," he said. "I won't be long." He walked out before I could ask a single question. I stood by the window and watched his car disappear into the distance. Then I made a decision. A decision I never thought I would make. The next time David left the house, I was going to follow him. The next evening, David left the house again. He smiled at me before walking out. "I'll be home later," he said. As soon as his car disappeared, I picked up my keys. I felt nervous. Part of me wanted to stop, but another part needed answers. I followed him from a safe distance. For almost 30 minutes, I stayed behind his car. I expected him to stop at a restaurant, or another house, or maybe a hotel. Instead, he parked outside a large children's hospital. I stared at the building in complete surprise. "This can't be right," I whispered. David got out of his car, carrying 2 large shopping bags. He walked through the hospital entrance. A few seconds later, I quietly followed him. The hospital was calm. Children were playing in a small waiting area. Some parents looked worried. Others were smiling with hope. I slowly walked down the hallway. Then I saw David. A little boy saw him first. "David!" the boy shouted happily. David smiled, knelt down, and hugged him warmly. Soon, several children gathered around him. He opened the shopping bags. Inside were books, coloring pencils, board games, small toys, and chocolate. The children laughed with excitement. I stood there without moving. I had never seen this side of my husband before. A nurse noticed me standing near the door. She walked over with a kind smile. "Can I help you?" she asked. I'm looking for my husband." She looked toward David and smiled. "Oh, you're Sarah." I looked surprised. "You know my name." She nodded. "David talks about you all the time." I felt even more confused. She continued speaking. "For almost 3 years, David has volunteered here every Saturday. He also helps many families pay their children's medical bills." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I looked at David again. He was helping a little girl finish a puzzle. His face was full of happiness. The nurse smiled softly. "He asked us never to tell anyone. He believes kindness should stay private." At that moment, everything became clear. The late nights, the secret phone calls, the missing money, the hospital receipt. It all made sense. Suddenly, David looked up. He saw me standing in the hallway. His smile slowly disappeared. He walked toward me. "Sarah, what are you doing here?" My eyes filled with tears. "I followed you." He lowered his head. "I'm sorry. I should have told you." I looked at him quietly. "Why didn't you?" He took a deep breath. Several seconds passed before he answered. "When I was younger, my little niece became very sick. She had leukemia. My brother couldn't afford all the treatment. I watched my family suffer. After she passed away, I promised myself something. If I ever had enough money, I would help other families." He looked toward the children. "I never wanted anyone to praise me. I just wanted to make their lives a little easier." Tears rolled down my face. I felt ashamed. For weeks I had believed the worst. I had forgotten the man I married. I gently held his hand. "I'm sorry, David. I should have trusted you." He squeezed my hand gently. "And I should have trusted you with my secret." We hugged each other in the middle of the hallway. For a long moment, neither of us said anything. The following Saturday, I went with David. We spent the whole afternoon with the children. We played games, read stories, drew pictures, and celebrated one little boy's birthday. When it was time to leave, a little girl walked up to me. She smiled and hugged me. "Thank you for coming," she said. I smiled back. "No. Thank you for teaching me something important." From that day forward, David and I volunteered together every weekend. We also started organizing small fundraising events to help more families. Our marriage became stronger than ever. Not because life became easier, but because we learned to trust each other again. Sometimes the truth is very different from the story we create in our minds. Before you believe the worst about someone you love, take a moment to ask, to listen, and to understand. Because the people who love us the most may be carrying burdens they never wanted us to see.